Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. Today we begin letter 8 in Jesus Christ, the Christ letters, the truth. And letter 8, the contents, I will go over with you as I do before every video. Christ explains the reality of men and women, how to live within the laws of existence and come into a state of harmonious, blessed state of being, in which all things are abundantly provided. Health is restored and joy becomes a natural state of mind. Every individual can reach this interior state of blessedness, and peace will then become the norm. I have come to you again to speak of the true nature of existence. The truth of being is this: you who believe only in the material world live entirely in the earthly, finite world. You live within a dimension of the manifestation of your beliefs. Those whose spiritual perceptions and lives have been raised in frequencies of vibrations to merge with the spiritual frequencies of vibration of the spiritual dimension can perceive that they live in two dimensions. They are fully aware of this truth, and they live according to this truth and evolve into ever higher frequencies of being. They are no longer bound by human belief, but live within the realization that they live within infinity, in which there are no limitations. The higher their vibrational frequencies of consciousness, the more aware they are that they live within infinity, and that only they themselves set the limits on what they can aspire to. Those whose perceptions have been heightened in this way whilst still in their bodies have seen that there is only one dimension of actual individual being, and this dimension is divine consciousness activity. They may also come to fully realize that there is the further dimension of universal consciousness, in which the universal resides in perfect equilibrium and may be penetrated by none, because within this dimension, any individuality would be immediately drawn into the unity of being. When a soul reaches, in understanding and realization, the topmost level of the frequencies of vibrations of consciousness, Christ consciousness, the soul can look down and review the levels of vibrations ascending and descending to those of humanity on earth and know, with love and compassion, humanity is trapped in the lower vibrations of divine consciousness, hidden within the ego drive, wholly unaware of the truth of being, the soul's true identity, and the earthly truth of the ego. Neither does it have the slightest awareness of the immense purpose behind its existence and the eventual mission it must embark upon. The task of the newborn soul is to experience, through means of its sheath, the psyche, all that these lower frequencies have to offer and grow as a result of the mental/emotional events and experiences arising out of their thoughts and feelings. The soul must learn through trial and error the state of consciousness which makes it immensely happy, or burdened with grief and sorrow which initiate various physical limitations. The purpose of life on earth is not to discover a means to experience undeviating joy and bliss, although this is what each soul longs for. Such bliss and joy would hinder the soul's progress into the higher spiritual vibrations of consciousness. Eventually, after many lifetimes of highs and lows, of comfort and sorrow, the psyche will wake up to the truth of its being and will realize that it has within itself the potential to draw on divine consciousness for insight, understanding, and knowledge, and to raise its spiritual consciousness vibrations to those of health, well-being, protection, inner growth, spiritual nutrition, and to radiate to others the nature of divine consciousness itself. As I have said before, consciousness is life, and life is consciousness. Where there is life, there is consciousness. Where there is consciousness, there is life. Everything in existence is defined by vibrational frequencies of consciousness. Light, sound, color, all physical phenomena, both living and inanimate, If you can change the frequencies of vibration of any single thing, you change the appearance of that thing, be it sound, color, gas, liquid, physical organs. When physical organs present an appearance of ill health, it is because the normal frequencies of vibrations of that physical organ have been reduced and the life within the organ has been depleted. Science presents the universe as being matter, possessing consciousness. But the truth is, the universe is consciousness, which has taken on the appearance of matter as a result of the descent into the lower frequencies of vibration of consciousness. This is the true reality of existence, nothing else. Your existence is all a matter of frequency of vibrations. The higher the spiritual perceptions and the adherence to the spiritual thought, the more swift are the personal vibrational frequencies in the body. The vitality is raised and illness eventually disappears. The scientific fraternity believes you live entirely within the human dimension, comprising the solar system and the galaxies of stars. Science believes the human intellect is the highest point of intellect reference at any time, having evolved in response to changing environment and climatic conditions, and is purely the product of brain activity. According to science, your emotions are wholly real and valid, and what you think and feel is beyond all dispute. These constitute the only reality of existence. Normalcy is computed according to the average thoughts, actions, and responses to the environment. This is perceived as the human reality. Any talents which transcend the average output of average minds is reckoned as being genius, arising from unusual mental powers. The below average output is said to be due to retardation, due to some physical cause, genetics, birth trauma, etc. Science believes the physical dimension is the beginning and the end of existence. Science is so set against any possibility of self-delusionary beliefs that it will accept as being real any phenomenon provided it can be computed, estimated, and proved by instruments. If you think about this carefully, you will come to realize that what science holds fast to as fact, in reality, only belief created by drawing conclusions through the exercise of their five senses. So is it with every other facet of your existence. In your earthly dimension, facts take place second by second, but the moment they have happened, they become memory beliefs, and memories are not always accurate. Whatever feelings and thoughts you have about the past are not facts, but points of view, beliefs, and are therefore not facts, nor the reality behind them. This applies to every facet of your existence. The truth is, you live in a worldly dimension composed entirely of your beliefs arising from your responses to what happened 100, 1,000, or 10,000 years ago. At one time, people believed the world was flat. Therefore, for them, they lived in a flat world and were afraid to sail the seas too far in one direction because they were in danger of falling off of the edge of the world. For the people a mere 400 years ago, their world was flat. Today, with knowledge, your world is accessible in every direction. People in the past, and also in the present time, directed their lives according to old wives' tales, the power of the ancestors, and other legends. They believed in them so implicitly, the limitations imposed by these beliefs restricted people's actions and activities. Dancing was believed to be sinful and wicked by certain Christian sects, for instance. Therefore, many people who would have derived great happiness and relief from stress when dancing were wrongfully denied this pleasure. Religion comes under the same heading. Beliefs are the very substance of religion. They are founded on age-old happenings which are nothing but belief. The beliefs may have been relevant to the general mindset of those times, but they have long since become irrelevant in a constantly changing world. Yet they are strictly adhered to and become the focus of worship, festivities, celebrations, mourning, and more destructively, they become the reason for men killing one another and causing horrific misery to women and children. Certain religions claim that God is everywhere and in all things, but also affirm dogmatically that no one knows the mind of God or the reasons why people kill one another. It may be in God's plan, they say. With mindsets composed of a conglomeration of illogical beliefs, where can mankind at this present time find any certainty of beauty, joy, well-being, love? Religious ideas present a God whose will can bring life and healing, or death and destruction. In such beliefs, there is no certainty of anything other than uncertainty. With such a belief, any sickness or abnormality can be excused as being God's will. It is your beliefs which control all your expectations of what life may hand out in the future. Healthy agnosticism, the kind of mindset which accepts it does not know the nature of God or whether there is any God at all, but is perfectly open to the conviction imparted by enlightenment, is preferable to fanatical beliefs in half-truth or non-truth. Wow. How blind is the human race generally? Wow. I'm sorry, I know I've read this a few times, but I forget a lot of what I've read and listened to with this book. Basically, he's saying it's better to have a healthy question of the nature of God and if there is a God, and to be open to enlightenment than it is to fall in line with these age-old beliefs and truths and rituals and ceremonies of the religions that we all know so well. People who are like moles living within their tunnels, convinced they are capable of sizing up the entirety of their existence by using their senses of hearing, smell, very limited vision and touch. Sorry, I read that wrong. People are like moles, and they are living as in this way. Sorry. Thus may you descend the scale of life forms and witness thousands of species living lives entirely defined and limited by their senses. What they can perceive as real constitutes their personal reality, defined and limited, reality, their particular world. Every strata of existence experienced by various species of living things is distinct from every other within the earthly dimension. This includes the human mind, which is literally possessed by religious doctrines and dogmas, and imprisoned in scientific theories and mathematic formulas. Religious doctrines have been conceived by human reasoning in an effort to explain the teachings of spiritual masters, whose minds have moved beyond the human sphere of intellect into the heavenly spheres of inspired perception of universal reality. Scientific concepts are also the product of the human senses, rationalizing and giving names to phenomena viewed by human sight during experimentation. When, therefore, the human intellect is able to set aside such limited beliefs and ascend into contact with the reality beyond the highest human reasoning, logic, and rationalizations, which are termed knowledge, such a mind enters the higher spheres of life consciousness. It is imbued with universal truth, which is literally beyond the scope of normal human mind to perceive or accept or understand. The human mind cannot understand any experience beyond that of the electromagnetic parameters of earthly existence and the functions of the brain, until divine consciousness enlightenment enters the entire human system of mind, emotions, and subconsciousness. Then the underlying unity and harmony is revealed. When altogether new spiritual perceptions are presented to a religiously indoctrinated mind, these are perceived as being from Satan or sheer lunacy or imagination. This is natural, since when the emotions are severely aroused and challenged, as happens when deep beliefs are contradicted, the magnetic emotional bonding-rejection impulses of the ego drive immediately come into action. Any thesis or proposal which causes the conditioned mind acute mental discomfort, dismay, or puzzlement will be rejected instantly, and a whole barrage of proofs will be summoned from the beliefs in any conditioned mind to back up such rejection. But the proofs are merely beliefs. This is an entirely natural mental emotional process within the purely human dimension. Therefore, if this, my truth, is offered to those whose mindsets are firmly established and conditioned by fear or strengthened by the human will to adhere to such programmed beliefs, it is only natural that the truth will arouse unruly emotions and be quite violently, possibly virulently rejected. The foregoing is a description of normal mental emotional activity within the human dimension. It should not be criticized, since a conditioned mind is made to feel completely insecure and adrift or all at sea when confronted with an entirely new concept. These human idioms describe exactly what happens when an indoctrinated mind is challenged by an entirely new perception of what was previously held to be so dear, so safe, so right. When first reading these letters, you can determine for yourselves where you stand mentally and emotionally. Are you blocked from spiritual progress by your stubborn adherence to present beliefs? Are you able, after due thought, to realize that all you are sturdily upholding is only belief, irrational belief? It is absolutely vital to your spiritual development that you should, at long last, fully understand the principles of your human mind and emotional functioning. You think you do, but you do not understand it at all. You can only understand it by coming out of it entirely, transcending it, moving it into higher dimensions of perception and experience, entering into truth itself. Only then do you begin to perceive that you and every other person in the world have lived and directed your lives almost entirely by human beliefs, not truth. There are many people who believe wholeheartedly that if they pray for a certain object or experience or the bestowal of the right guidance in a certain situation, they will truly receive the right object, experience, or guidance, which will enhance their well-being. They believe that if their prayer is answered, they will wholeheartedly rejoice and immediately follow the lead, irrespective of present conditions, because coming from the divine, it can only be the right answer conducive to happiness. However, when faced with the arrival of the longed-for object or experience or guidance, the recipient of divine grace sometimes becomes so disturbed and disoriented, unable to accept that there has been an intrusion of divine consciousness, exactly as asked for, that he or she does not know how to deal with it. If minds are so disturbed when what they have asked for is actually given them in an unexpected way, where is the true faith and belief which they were so certain they wholly possessed in abundance? Do you not also see that belief, not truth, has orchestrated the whole symphonic movement, with the exception, of course, of the divine consciousness intervention, the answer to the prayer? This intervention is the only reality in the whole procedure. The rest is belief and hope, mental gymnastics using past experiences by which to measure the present. Your only truth is divine consciousness, which leads only to growth and perfection, if you fully trust it to do so. Pause here and read and reread the foregoing paragraphs, because what goes on in your consciousness is the fabric of your experience and lives. So question yourselves, do you really perceive, realize, understand the reality as being the source of all knowledge and creativity? Or do you merely pay lip service and superficial mental acknowledgement to divine consciousness? Do you fully and completely live, minute by minute, in the realization that universal consciousness is the only reality and highest intelligence operational within creation? Do you consistently depend on its supremely effective guidance? Or do you think that you would rather live by your own finite will and sometimes muddied emotional impulses? Muddled. And if you are given direct guidance to follow a certain lead, but stop to think whether the guidance is leading you where you think you want to go, are you fully surrendered to the highest intelligent authority, divine consciousness? Is this not an indication your ego is still in control? Even these letters, when circulated as intended, will come to be beliefs, not the pure spiritual perception of what is, out of which these words have come. Only by taking these words into meditation, asking for spiritual illumination, will the spiritual reality behind the words eventually come like a shaft of light into the mind. When this happens, you will know that you know. Those of you who have evolved sufficiently to live in 2 dimensions, you whose minds can move beyond the realm of human intellect into the higher dimension of universal reality, will probably encounter many people in time to come who will reject these letters as imagination, but be not dismayed. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop right here. Trying to break these last 2 letters up in a more even manner so that my videos are more around the 20-minute mark or so. So we'll stop right there, and it might take about 3 more videos or so to finish I think letter 8 is what we're on. And yeah, we'll stop right there. Thank you all so much for joining me. I love you all very much. And until I see you again, take care of yourselves and take care of those around you. Until next time, I love you all again, and I will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.